Okay. I sent everyone the workbook. So hopefully everyone's got it in hand and printed. If not, just send me a message in the chat.
Now I can't see everybody.
Hmm.
Side by side gallery. There it is.
There you go.
How is everybody? Everyone's so quiet. Is everyone's muted? With monitors, with screens off.
That's because half of us are watching FIFA World Cup while we're signing in.
Right, Mohan.
Well, I'm home with a fever and a cold, so I can blame it on I have to stay close to my couch.
Yes.
So anyway,
how do you like Japan beating Germany?
incredible. España is now ahead of Costa Rica 3-0.
I'm telling you, it makes Canada this afternoon interesting.
Yeah.
What time is Canada's?
2 o'clock.
Oh,
This is the FIFA Cup of Underdogs, I think.
For sure.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
All right. Let me know, Jennifer, Melody, when you want to get started. And
let's do it.
okay.
I will mute myself.
All right. Excellent.
Now it's not ding donging, and I didn't see there were two people waiting to be let in.
Just keep.
Okay, I got to keep my eye on that.
Just keep it open. Yeah, the participant thing. Yeah.
Here we go.
All right, excellent. All right, well, welcome everyone. And I think everyone has is there anybody that doesn't have the workbook that was sent out?
There was one person and they sent me a message on the chat. So if you're missing your workbook, just let me know and I will.
You can throw it in the chat too, Melody, if
the workbook?
Yeah, you can actually use chat and put the workbook right in there.
I will do that.
Awesome. All right, guys. And I have glimmers of smartness, Melody.
Oh man, I just got to figure out how you actually do this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just my computer and
yep.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right, guys. So we're gonna do some business planning today, and really the goal today is realigning your business for 2023. Everyone should be able to see my screen, and I hope there's a couple of things I'd like to mention. One is there's a workbook that we're going to work through. The idea of today is not to complete the workbook every detail, but to really start a framework of what our plan is going to be for next year. My background, I'm a CPA by technical training, but my focus in my career has always been strategy and business strategy, and I work with entrepreneurs all over Canada. Most of our clients are in the US, the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and we have clients in Europe right now as well. And all of them are, like you guys, are independent entrepreneurs trying to run a business. And what we're going to go through today, whether it's a small, a small singly operated business, or whether it's a team of 30, or whether it's an organization with thousands, what you're going to go through today is very similar approach we take with even public companies. So I hope you appreciate the approach we're taking today. So what we're going to do is, sorry, I guess I already did this already. This is my background. So I'm an MBA CPA. Like I said, we work with customers across the world. We haven't broken into Asia or Australia yet, but we have had clients that have been on webinars with us from those locations. But the reason why I share that is that I can also share what has worked in other countries as well that might be relevant for us today. So there's two deliverables I have for you guys today. One is my job is to provide creative ideas for your plan, looking at each of you as business owners. And the other part that I'm supposed to provide you is really a workshop environment where you can start to work on your own business privately, and you can leave here with a number of action items for yourself. So I hope that all of you think about, these types of spaces. It's only going to be an hour and a bit that we're going to be together, that your vested time in this space is that you come away with a couple of key ideas that will help you for 2023 and will help you create a plan for 2023. Now, the role that I want you all to play today is I want you to put the hat on that you're the CEO of your business. Each of you have an independent business, and really there's nothing that is going to happen in the business unless you do it. And I think of that as the chief executive officer of that business. And I'm not saying this, tongue in cheek. It is really how you need to think about your business. And a lot of us will think of us as, oh, we're a great salesperson. We drive leads and volume and all of that. But you know what? Your job in your business is way more complex than that. The average person that doesn't understand real estate or understand what a real estate agent does will just think of all of us as salespeople. But no, you have a marketing strategy, you have an operational strategy, you have communication that you need to think about with your customer base, your database. You do have a selling process, and then you have an operational process as well. And then in the operational process, you have paper lists, and there's so many parts of that business that it doesn't matter whether you're a real estate agent or a multinational business, all of those areas are still relevant. So that's why I want you to think of yourselves as a CEO today, because each part of that business, if we improve just slightly, is going to impact the way that you run your business next year. Now, our dilemma, and this is a dilemma that we all have, is that the solutions to our current problems cannot be found from the level of consciousness that created them. So in other words, I'm happy that you're all here today, because whatever problems you've had, it's because you have, it could only be, it's been driven by what you've been thinking about, how you've been driving your business, and what you've been up against. And in this space today, you're going to hear a bunch of new ideas. And what you need to think about is, how do I get myself into spaces where I think about new ideas all the time? Because you can't solve the problems from the same consciousness that created them. And this is Albert Einstein, that quote from him. I just love it. It just forces us to do more reading. It forces us to get into more training spaces, and it forces us to get into more mastermind groups as a CEO of our business. So I hope today encourages that. So this isn't the end. That when you see training that Jennifer and Melody are doing, that, you know what, even if you go to the training and get one idea from it, that is new consciousness that you've got. So let's start off by just framing this a bit with and I'm not saying that this is the economic outlook. This is what I did a little bit of research before our call today, and I was just looking at some of the key points that I'm hearing out in the industry. And, we know some of this is just factual. Like, we've got higher mortgage rates that are impacting our customers and our demand. We have a possible recession in 2023. That's what I'm hearing. I think there's already been a bit of a downturn. Now, what's driving that, whether it's economic or whether it's just, people feeling uneasy or whatever that is, it's a reality that we have to deal with. There's a possible drop in housing pricing or correction. Again, not my opinion, just what I'm hearing. And the other item was that I wanted all of you as CEOs to think about is, what are the specifics in the neighborhoods that you serve? So those ones there that I wrote down are more continental comments from the US and Canada. The last bullet is really, as a CEO of your business, it really doesn't matter what's happening down in the US. It's what's happening in your neighborhood. It doesn't matter what's happening nationally across Canada. If you're in a specific neighborhood or a specific database and you serve a specific area, what are the economic realities of that neighborhood that you need to understand? So I want you to, I want to just put that thought out for you right now. Now, to me, these bullet points need to be kept at the side if you're taking notes right now, these need to be kept to the side as we build our business plan, as we think about our plan. All right. And I just look at this as just our realities. And then the last piece that are really specific to you is who are your target clients? And I would even say, what is your target client? So can you describe exactly which clients that you're most effective with, not only in delivering service to them, but also effective in convincing them that you're the one that they need to work with? So I'll just take a moment there. I hope all of you have pens up and you're taking notes down, but I want you to write down a couple of characteristics of your target client. And again, I can't force any of you to do the work that we're going to go through today, but I can tell you, if you commit to taking your pen out, using the workbook to take notes, and just kind of following my direction, this is the same process that I would take with, like I have taken with, like a multinational I work with in Amsterdam, where I work with 12 of their VPs, and they've got 3,500 employees worldwide. They go through this similar process that we're going to go through right now as well. Just the details might be a little bit different. So the business plan that we're gonna go through first is what I refer to as identifying your dreams, setting your goals, identifying what strategies that we're going to develop for ourselves in our own businesses, and then breaking those strategies down into specific tactics, and then identifying what results that we're after. So the business plan itself is something that you're going to create on that piece of paper, that booklet that has been provided. It could be done in more detail, but the framework of that plan is going to be in that booklet. And then we'll talk about at the end of this how we translate that into a plan that's effective for each of you. But the idea here is that part of the business plan after we've created it is how do we measure results of how we're implementing our plan. Like let's say if we all wanted to lose weight, one of the things we're going to have to do is get on a scale every now and again to see where we're at. And we're also, if we're really smart about it, it won't just be about weight, but maybe it's about body fat. And maybe it's about, measuring some other indicators that, I don't care. I really don't care about what the weight says on the scale, but I do care about my body fat percentage. And I do care about how many notches on my belt I start to lose. So the right indicators that we need to start measuring is going to be important. And then by doing that, we can then reflect on whether our strategies are working or not. There's no point. Oh, sorry. I gotta just turn my phone off here. There's no point in doing in working so hard if we're not seeing the results in some of the indicators that we're measuring. So that allows us to reflect, and then it allows us to change our plan and redo. So the idea of this document you're creating is it's not a one-time do my business plan, feel really good about it, put it on the shelf, and then next year we'll look at it again when we're planning again. The idea is that we're going to create a document that we can use throughout the year. In fact, I hope you're going to use it next week, and that we'll try to set that up for you guys. So the first exercise, so we're pen in hand, and this is the first exercise I want to take you through, is I want you to turn to the page that has your dream list on it. And I want to talk you through. There should be a list of 15 items on it. And it's called a dream list. And it doesn't necessarily, it could be referred to as a bucket list. It could be referred to as big, audacious goals that you've got. The idea here is that this isn't where we're going to put the goals of the business. This is the goals of you as the CEO. With regards to what you're going to do if the business does well. What is your bucket list? And this list has 15 items on it. So I want you to write down at least 3 right now. What are 3 reasons why you are all here today? Are you thinking about buying an investment property? Are you thinking of, taking your family to Japan to celebrate their win? Are you what is it that you're interested in doing? Are you looking at making sure all of your children go to a prestigious university, or putting your kids into private school if you're younger? What is it that is part of your dream list? And then but I want you to list list a few right now. But the goal of this program is to list 50. So on that page, I want you to say that your homework after today is to put a list of 50 together. And the first 20 are going to be really easy. And Melody, Jen, you got to do this too. The first 20 are going to be really easy. The next 30 will be really hard. This is from my own experience of doing this. We need to dream like a child. In other words, stop thinking about our limiting belief and think about it as if we only have one life. We only have one chance to do what we want to do in this earth. And we're not going to be able to do what we need to do here in the next world. So think of it like that and not being afraid. We're only putting a list down. No one else is going to see this list but you. And then I want you to be really specific. So I'll share a story with you. I did this. I had to speak to a number of agents in Halifax in another industry, in the mortgage industry. And there was 1,100 that I was going to speak to. And I was going to be doing this exercise with them as well. And I decided on the plane on the way to Halifax that I was going to do my own list again. I hadn't done it in a long time. And I thought, hey, if I'm getting everyone else to do this, I should do it. So I started writing down all of these big audacious goals that I had. And one of them, this was 20 years ago. One of them was I have 3 children. My dad we're from South Africa. I was born in Cape Town. And my dad is one of 14 brothers and sisters. And at that time I had very young, well, I shouldn't say they were that young. I had young children. Well, let's see, 20 years ago. Yeah, they were fairly young. They were still under 10 years old, and I hadn't taken them to South Africa yet. So one of my first 10 items was actually take the whole family on a trip to South Africa so that my dad could show off his grandchildren to his brothers and sisters who are still all in Cape Town. And keep in mind, I wrote 50 items down. And that one, if anybody understands plane fares at that time, it would have been about 10 grand in plane fares just to get them to South Africa. And you're not going to South Africa for a 2-week vacation. You have to go for 3 or 4 weeks. So those were all audacious things that I had to accomplish to be able to make this happen. But I got to tell you, just writing it down, I started taking steps the next month in how I was going to do this. So what you're going to find is that this dream list that you're making, just the fact that you write down 50 items, you're going to start moving you towards achieving any of them. So I want you to think really audaciously about that, and don't think about just one area. I'm going to throw up 9 areas here that you should be thinking about when making this list. So like I said, the first 20 are going to be hard. The first 20 are going to be easy. The next 30 are going to be hard because you're going to be thinking, geez, what else do I really need? But start thinking about all of these other areas. Like, do you want to provide service in your community? What kind of philanthropic goals do you have? Do you have a sort of a spiritual element? One of the things I always wanted to do is I wanted to run a youth camp out of our backyard. That was one of the things on my list. And during that time I did, just because I wrote it down, and I shared my list with Colleen, my wife. So the other piece of homework, one piece of homework is to write 50. The second piece of homework is that you're going to share it with your partner, your significant other, your spouse, or anybody that's close enough in your life that it would be important for them to see what's on your list. And then I would get them to do the same privately. Or you get them to do the same privately before you share yours. And then you exchange. And what that'll do is it'll also align you with your partner, your spouse, your significant other, with what your bigger picture goals are. Now, the idea of doing this list, folks, is that, think about it this way. We need a bigger, audacious goal to do a business plan. We need something bigger than just money. If it's just money and just volume, I'll tell you, you'll fail, because we can't get motivated by money and volume. What we can get motivated with is what that money fuels. And that money fuels a lot of things for us as individuals. So that's really why we do this dream list. So I hope all of you enjoy doing that going forward. And I hope you send me some notes on how effective that was for you. Now, what I'd like you to do is we're not going to spend the whole hour here talking about Dream List. We're going to start building our plan. So I want you to finish that as homework for yourself. I want you to flip the page. And when you flip the page, we're going to start now, get into our mission and setting our goals as a business. And in doing so, what I want you to think about is the mission statement itself. I'm not going to dig into that today, but I want to leave you with a thought around that. Is you've already set up your goal list. Now I want you to think about your business as the CEO. What is the mission of your business? In other words, what service are you focused on doing that provides value to your customer that allows you to earn income? You know, so the mission will never be to make $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000. The mission is going to be, could be, you know, how many home ownership challenges are you going to solve next year, or that you are going to be the operation that solves home ownership problems or home ownership challenges. Or maybe the mission is that you're going to help clients build equity in real estate. And that is your mission statement. Whatever it is, it's going to speak to your entire business, but I'll leave you with that to do on your own. And I'd also encourage you to Google mission statement and how to create a mission statement for yourself. But the next part I want to dig into, which is setting your goals. And in setting your goals as an organization, because that's what you are, an organization, we have to think about key performance indicators. Remember how I told you about losing weight? Well, there's one thing you can do is step on a scale and see how much you weigh. There's another thing you can do to now understand what really you're after. Are you after getting down into a smaller pant size or dress size? Are you looking at just, you know, being healthier? You know, what are the elements that you're after in losing weight? Because then your indicators will change. Now you might be thinking about, okay, well, how many calories do I burn every day? What can I do to increase that? What is my body fat, as I mentioned before? What is my blood pressure? My resting heartbeat? So these are all indicators that you know, if you're after health, you're going to start working on, because it's not just about losing weight, but it's about losing weight and also managing all those other performance indicators the right way. So let's talk about your performance indicators as a real estate agent or as a CEO of your business. You know, one of them is how many closed transactions you've done. So I would look at it as what did I do last year? And then how many closed transactions do I want to have in 2023? Another KPI for your business is what's your average GCI? So that is your gross commission income. So are you an agent that's cutting commissions to get business? And what is your average gross commission? Is it close to 2.5%, or is it falling down closer to 1%? You can look at your transactions from the last year and look at what does that look like for you? And again, if it's lower than you want it to be, maybe set a goal next year of instead of my average being, you know, 1.75%, I want to get it back up to 2.25%. And folks, I have clients in the most challenging environments doing 2.5% all day long, even though they have price cutters all around them. And it's because they put that down as a goal, and then their focus had to be on value and the way that they sold. Listing and buyer agreements. In other words, one of your KPIs is how many listing and buyer agreements did you have signed last year? And obviously this is a feed towards closed transactions, but how many did you have last year? And how many are you planning on having next year? And then from that, you can see that we're going granular as we go down the funnel. How many leads and how many appointments did you have last year? And folks, if I'm giving you some ideas on what your scorecard should look like, and if you're not measuring these things, then I could share with you that you might not be as effective as you could be. So leads and appointments, again, you need to know what your numbers were for 2022 so you can decide what your goals are going to be for 2023. Now, here's one that a lot of you might not know. is how many database advocates do you have in your database? So you might have a database that you've not really cleaned up and it's been, just generating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it might have thousands of names and contacts in there. First of all, how many of those contacts are updated? Second of all, how many of those names in that database have ever referred business to you? So those would be your database advocates and your database, let's call it A+ contacts. I have a raised hand here. Please go ahead.
What would you suggest brand new agents who don't have that information from last year base our numbers on?
Oh, good one, Elizabeth. What I would suggest is if you're a new agent, I would have you, actually, I'll share a document with Jennifer and Melody and with Fabian that helps you build your database of let's call it your concentric circle or your sphere of influence. And those are all your friends and neighbors and friends of friends. And so I want you to build your database from a list of questions that I can share. In fact, I might even pop it into the chat if I take a pause here for you guys to do some work. And then Elizabeth, what I would say is that will create a list. And then from that list, how many of those people in there have you spoken about as a new agent, about your role as a new agent? And that could be your starting point. And then what I'd like you your goal to be is how many of those people on that list are going to become advocates for your business. So even though I've put in, a bunch of my neighbors' names on that list, there might be only one neighbor that I've ever spoken to about my real estate business. And maybe instead of by 2023, I want to have 3 of those neighbors that understand what I do, believe in me, and would refer business to me. Is that fair?
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. All right, and then I put down other. These are indicators that I believe are important to all of you, but I'm not sure if there's any others that any of you track that are important. I could tell you there could be some social media indicators that you want to track. In other words, it's not enough to have a bunch of followers. The question is, how many engage with you? How many comment on what you post? How many ask questions about real estate when you post stuff? So to me, that is engagement. I'm not sure if any of you measure that today, but it's something that an indicator that you might want to think about if you are a social media type person. So anyway, I don't want to limit you. So I want to just pause for a second and let you each write a couple of these under the goals section. And you've got goals for long-term and you've got goals for 1 year. So what do we want to achieve next year? And what are the numbers that we know in 2022? Because there's no point in telling me that you're going to do this many closed transactions next year if you don't know what you did in 2022. And same with each of these other indicators. Now, guys, I'm going to be moving really quickly, so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed because, again, we're trying to create a framework here that you're going to continue to work on your own. And this booklet, hopefully the leadership team will see you bring this, into future training sessions and meetings, and I want you to keep adding to it. So let's talk about just those KPIs and conversion. So we talked about closed transactions and we talked about why we need to understand the numbers. What I want you to think about is how many leads do you need to have to get an appointment? That's an important KPI as well. That wasn't on that first list. So in other words, if you get a referral to 5 new contacts, and it's a warm referral. So in other words, you can phone those 5 contacts up and say, hey, Melody told me to give you a call. I've been working with her for a while and she told me to give you a shout. If you had 5 contacts like that, how many of those would turn into appointments? That's an important conversion number for you. The second one is how many of those appointments would convert into an actual listing agreement or a buyer agreement? Again, let's write that down because that's an important question for you to answer and a KPI for you to monitor. And then you see the word channel here on the screen. Right now, you each have probably 2 or 3 channels you get most of your business from. I want you to think about what channels you don't you know you have access to, but you've never approached to get business? All right. I'm trying to, again, I'm sharing a lot of, like, the scope of this discussion seems to be pretty broad, but the idea is that I want to try to give you new ideas, back to that slide, that Einstein slide, of trying to get you to think a little bit differently than you have in the last 5 years. And what else could we be doing that we've never done before? But let's be audacious. If we want to hit those goals that we've set, or that bucket list that we've created, what do we need to do differently? Because this is one of my favorite authors. He's actually a Harvard professor, Michael Porter, but he speaks on strategy. And what he talks about is that if we do the same thing as everyone else around us, we're not going to be very successful. Because if we do the same thing as everyone around us, the only thing we've got that could differentiate us is our price. And I already said to you, I don't want any of you. You guys are a full service brokerage. You're full service agents. You guys have a great brand. You should be helping the homeowner understand that their net benefit of using you is far outweighs any commission percentage. That the fact that you're going to be involved with them is either going to get a higher price for their home, or if you're working with buyers, to help them find the most economical purchase for them, that'll save them way more than anything that you can do on the percentage side. So so that is really important to figure out, what do we do in reality differently than the average agent that's working for, HomeSense or something like that, that's doing some commission cutting. But really important question for you to ask yourself as a CEO. So here's where I've been feeding you a lot of stuff that you might be thinking, geez, I'm really strong at that. Or maybe you're thinking, geez, I'm a little bit concerned, I'm a little bit weak at that. I want you to flip the page where you see SWOT. And you're going to have a spot there to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I'd like you to think about is everything that I mentioned. Write down 2 strengths that you have right now that you believe you have. And when I say that, I mean 2 strengths that you believe you have that will help you achieve your goals. So you're doing that right now, writing down 2 strengths. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to write down 2 weaknesses, or 2 areas in the way that you run your business as the CEO that you want to improve on. I'll just give you a minute to do that. Now, when I think about weaknesses, they're really opportunities that we can improve. Like, let's say you have a really poor database, or you just don't have a tool to do it, like a real good CRM. If you don't, then that is a perfect thing to write down. That my CRM right now, it's a list of names and what have you, but I don't really use it to drive leads. So that could be a weakness in your business right now. Or it could be that my listing presentation, geez, as much as Melody and Jennifer and Fabian have done training on listing presentations, and I just have never updated mine. And I've just been leaning on the same one I've been using in the last 3 years. Well, if you haven't changed your listing presentation in the last year, then that should be written down as a weakness. It's something you can do to fix. Now, you have strengths and weaknesses. Now, opportunities, we've written down a couple of strengths and weaknesses, and this is important. I want you to write down at least one, because it's going to feed into the next part of our session. Opportunities, I mentioned to you about channels, business channels. So you might get a lot of business from friends and family, and the referrals from friends and family. That's one channel. You might have another channel where you've got a really good social media feed, and you've got lots of followers, and you share information with them, and you get lots of leads that way. That's a different channel. You might also be involved with your children's soccer and soccer or athletic sports and in the community, and you've sponsored teams and you've driven leads from that with parents that are part of that. You might be involved in your children's school, and there's been parents and people there that you've gotten to know and gotten leads from. Anyway, I'm just throwing out different ideas, but these are all, to me, these are all different channels. Under opportunities in your SWOT, I want you to think about what I mentioned to you before. What opportunities have you had in the past, or sorry, what channels do you have access to that you have never tapped for business? You've never thought about creating a strategy. How do I get closer to these people? And how do I help serve them? So it's not about what you get, it's what you could do for them that provide additional clients for yourself. So let's say maybe even your church or your wherever you do your spiritual gathering of your community. Are you getting any business from that channel? In other words, have you ever served anybody in that space? That's an opportunity. So I'll stop talking, but I want you to write down at least one opportunity that you've not taken advantage of. All right. And sorry, I was just finding that document for Elizabeth here, and I'm going to post it into the chat. Here it is here. There you go. So that's a document in building your database. So just go onto the chat. You can download it there. And it's just really, guys, just that you've seen this before. Other agent coaching companies have this. It's how you build a database. Even if you're an experienced agent, not a bad place to go through and read off, all these different, it really just makes your mind think about where you could be getting business that you've never gotten before, or where you could develop an advocate. All right. So we've done strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. I'm not going to worry about threats right now, but maybe I'll just mention one thing under threats. You guys, most of you are running your own business. Most of you, the business is about you. So the threat that I would document down there is really your own personal health. So I want you to identify something about your personal health that you need to work on in 2023. Because the threat to your business is that you become unhealthy and you can't do the business you need to do. And just pick one thing that you want to improve in your own personal health. You can expand that later on your bucket list, but let's identify one threat that you need to overcome. Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about your business because we're going to be developing strategies, and we're talking about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I want to talk a little bit about you as the CEO and what the asset of the business is. Now, an asset is owned by a company that will provide future revenue or equity to a business. That's what the definition of an asset is. And when I think about an asset, I think about an asset that is usually tangible. Usually we think about our database, or we think about our all of our intellectual property and our marketing materials that we've got. Those are all assets of your business because they're used to turn your operation into revenue. They can either be tangible, like I just described, or they could be intangible. One of your assets that is intangible is your reputation. It's not something that we can put our hands on and hold, but it's something that is really important to your ability to drive success in your business. Now, your key business assets are your CRM database, your brand and marketing collateral. I'll talk about this later, your working capital and cash flow. Your virtual operation is an asset, and you and your team. So if you have a team, it's obviously you and your team. If it's just you, then it's you and yourself as the team. But these are, if you think about it, these are the assets that drive revenue for yourself. Now, the analogy I want to share was this idea of a goose that lays golden eggs. Everybody knows the story of the goose that laid the golden egg. So think of your business that you're the CEO of as the goose. And the golden eggs that it lays are all the people that you have served in the past. So each month you either, you might lay, your goose might lay one golden egg, or it might lay 2 or 3 golden eggs, or maybe it lays an egg every 3 months. But the goose is laying eggs, and that's where the income is coming from. The goose itself, though, if I were to sell the goose, it's only going to be worth, if it doesn't lay any more eggs, it's only going to be worth the meat that the goose is valued at. But if it lays golden eggs, it's obviously valued a lot more, because the goose is just the asset that's driving revenue. So I'm just trying to differentiate between an asset and the income it drives. So what we do for the goose is we feed it well. We give it, obviously a warm environment potentially, because we know when it's warm, it lays more eggs. We give it a very comfortable environment, and we change its bedding every day, because the more comfortable the goose is, the more eggs it lays. We go and we befriend the goose, and we play with it, and because again, I'm mentioning all these activities we do to strengthen the asset. And if we strengthen the asset, it lays more eggs. Well, it's really no different than these 5 areas that I'm describing, is that if we strengthen each one of these areas, it's going to provide us more leads. And if we strengthen these areas, our leads are going to be converting at a higher rate, because these things are stronger. So I want to dive into each one of these. And why I'm going to dive into this is I want you to use this to identify any other strengths and weaknesses that you might have that come out of this. So you flip back to that page and identify, oh God, Tyrone was just talking about the CRM, and I don't have any of those things. I'm going to put that down as weaknesses for me, because if I fix some of those, 2023 is going to be awesome. So we're going to go through each one of them in more detail, and then you can identify any other strengths and weaknesses. And that's what our goal is today in doing right now. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. Oh, I like that. Someone told me to stop using new agent and start using new business owner. That's exactly it. So what I'd like to suggest is let's dive into some of these. So let's dive into the CRM database. So let's just think about the CRM database that you have as an asset. So everybody now has the opportunity in Canada. You guys were the first ones to launch, and I can tell you, the guys in the US and the ladies in the US, they are dying to get onto KV Core. But many of them are going to be waiting until the second or third quarter of next year. We have a privilege here in Canada. And so this is really key to your CRM and your database. When I think about a database, I don't have any shares in KV Core, so I'm not selling KV Core, but it's one means of doing this right. In your CRM, do you have your past clients in your database? Do you have those questions that I shared on the for these new business owners, and also for the experienced business owners? Who is in your inner circle database? Can we go through that list one more time and identify others that we've never ever spoken to about how do we serve them and their families? So let's build on our inner circle database. The other question I would ask all of you is do you measure referrals? Do you know how many people in your database that you've received a referral in the last 12 months? Or maybe you expand that in the last 36 months. If you don't know that, what are you going to do to find that out? Maybe look at all of your past transactions. You can get Melody, Jennifer, and Fabian to give you a a report that shows you all your transactions from the last 24 months or the last 3 years. And then you can look at where did those pieces of business come from? And is there anybody specifically in my database that would have referred that to me? Great way of identifying your referrals, but I want that to be an indicator for you. And then the last piece, which is something that's usually missed, is the people that we've gotten leads from in the past and that we actually got the appointment and we did a listing presentation. A lot of those people, when they don't join us or have us do their business for them, we, for whatever reason, don't keep them on our database. But think about it. The number one buying indicator is taking the appointment. That's the number one buying indicator. So if someone took an appointment with you for a listing appointment, they've already waved the flag saying, I like you. I'm interested in doing business with you. Now, they didn't do business with you, but they should still be in your database because they did it with someone else that they might not have had a great experience with. But remember, they already waved the flag that I'm interested in you. So don't forget about the past prospects and the current prospects that you've got. So maybe go back to your leads of 2022 and all the people that you did an appointment with that you didn't get the business, and make sure that they're on your database for some follow-up. So those are like 4 really key areas of your CRM database. Hopefully, by sharing that with you, you identified a couple of weaknesses that you might have that need to be worked on. The next area I want to dive into is brand and marketing collateral. And I'm going to share some specifics around this that again will identify potential areas that you can improve on, or it might identify even a strength you have that you want to lean on. And that is web presence and social media. How many testimonials do you have? Do you have testimonials that are like, if I Google your name and I look at your website, do I have any references there, Google testimonials that I can look at of your work as an agent or as the CEO of your team or business? Video content. This is a big one with regards to marketing collateral. Is all of your marketing collateral that you share with your clients, is it all paper-based or is it digital? And even better, is it video? Do you have video content to help your clients? And then your listing and buyer presentation I already mentioned already is whether it is has been updated in the last year, because your buyers have different issues today than they did in 2022. They have different issues than they did during COVID. It's a different year in 2023. So what are you going to do to make sure that they understand through your buyer and listing presentation what value you're going to provide? And then what is your true value proposition? What is the basket of goods that you provide that is going to help you get more business and get more clients engaged with you? So these are, and again, keep in mind, I'm going to share these slides with you. I'll post it into the chat so that you guys can download it at the end of the presentation. So you don't have to write down everything that's on the screen, but anything that I say, obviously it's not going to be on the PDF. So I'm trying to just keep up with the chat here too. So I'd like to make sure that each of you are doing is filling up the strengths and weaknesses as we go. But there's the next, I want you to flip on to the next page, and you'll see on the next page, there's a list of blanks with strategies. So as you start listing the weaknesses, you only have so much room there for a number of strategies. And I think really, if we take on as CEOs 5 or 6 strategies, like really the most important strategies to drive business, that to me is enough for the first and second quarter of next year. And for the next, let's say the next 180 days. And then we can add to our strategies after we accomplish those first priorities. So what I'd like you to do is on that page that has the strategies, look at your SWOT right now and identify one strategy that you want to improve on, that you want to accomplish. Like you had a magic wand. And maybe your strategy is, you know what, there are 7 areas of KV Core I want to be the best agent using all 7 of those areas of KV Core, and write that down as a strategy. And I want to have that done, put a timeline to it. I want to be able to put my database in there. I want to have all of my action plans and my touches. I want to make sure that my feeds are all set up. I want to have all of that done by, let's say, January 31st of next year. Because I know if I do that, I'll hit the spring market really strong next year. So that might be one of my strategies. I'm not telling you that that should be your strategy. I'm just saying that that could be one of mine. And I want you to write that down so you can see what I'm saying is very specific. It's telling myself that I have to have it done by January 31st. And in my mind, as I'm writing this, I'm already seeing the value of it helping me in the spring market. So that's my strategy number 1. Now you guys can all have a different strategy based on what we're going through here. So that's it for brand and marketing. The next one is one that as CEOs, we don't think enough about. So this is our working capital and our cash flow. So part of this is doing a business plan for ourselves, which you're all, I give you all kudos already that you've taken an hour and a half out of your morning. Even though some of you are watching soccer in the background there, you're taking the time out to actually work on a business plan. So that's the first step. The second step is, what does that business plan going to deliver next year? And can you put that into an income line? So if you're going to do X number of transactions, what does that mean for in your market? Are you driving about $15,000 or $20,000 from a transaction? And then if you're doing that, how many transactions are you doing and how much income are you planning on having next year? And then what expenses, based on the strategies we come up with, what are your expenses going to be next year? So you can do this on a cocktail napkin really quickly, or you can get an Excel spreadsheet and you can do it really well. For me, I always think of it I'm a business coach, I'm a business leader myself. I always look at my business as, am I lying down? If I'm lying down, I'm going to sit up. If I'm sitting up, I'm going to stand up. If I'm standing up, I'm going to start walking. And if I'm walking already, I'm going to start running. So think of it that way, is that if you've never done a budget before, then just sit up. Like, in other words, write down some numbers and get some costs in. And then once you get some costs in, that sitting up is maybe you stand up, which means you're going to detail that out even more so. And then for me, running would be that you've got, a complete plan of how much activity you're going to drive next year, how many transactions that's going to turn into, exactly what segments you're going to go after, and then what are the costs of marketing to those segments? What is the cost of your operation right now? The areas that you've got as weaknesses, what are you going to invest in next year? KV Core, fortunately, is free for REMAX agents as part of our arrangement with the brokerage. So maybe I can get rid of some of my CRM expense that I have in other areas right now and just dive right into KV Core. These are all things that we should consider with regards to our cash flow. But I want you to do a monthly budget. As I mentioned, you're going to need to understand your operating costs and the pipeline of revenue that you're going to bring in. That's all elements of your budget. And the last item is really more about your bucket list. And this is something I talk about with all owners, and I'm guilty of this myself, is that the more money we make as entrepreneurs, for whatever reason, the more we can spend. And it just creeps up. So part of this exercise with regards to your bucket list is, how many of you have actually stepped back and decided what kind of investing, what is my longer term equity strategy for my own, for me and my partner or myself or whatever it is. If I look at my bucket list, how do I achieve those things that are on my bucket list? And in other words, what do I do with my income to be able to do that? So it's really important this time of year to be thinking about that and to be putting in a personal plan. And I'm not sure if any of you use financial advisors or financial planners, but not a bad idea to at least engage in a discussion with one to give you, remember the consciousness we're talking about? The consciousness has gotten you to the asset level or debt level that you currently have. So how do you change your consciousness to then expand the equity that you have and the wealth that you have? That's going to take thinking differently and doing things differently. So that last one's really important. Your virtual operation, I told you I was going to share these assets. So let's dive into virtual operation a little bit. Your virtual operation are your client meetings. I know in today's market and everyone learned how to use Zoom in the last few years. Everybody, including my 80-year-old parents, they use Zoom all the time now. And my mother didn't even know really how to use email properly 4 years ago. You know, and I'm sure all of you have stories like that with your client base. Well, it is really convenient for a client not to meet with you face to face sometimes and just to take on a Zoom meeting with you. Well, maybe you expand the number of appointments you have because you're willing to do some Zoom meetings, not just face to face. Now, all of us know that this is a relationship business. So we know face to face is the best. But what I'm saying is that we start thinking a little bit differently and we might open up some further prospects. So what do your client meetings look like virtually? Do you have virtual showings still? Is that something like, I know that you guys have a caravan approach to a real asset in your business around caravan. How many of you are engaged in caravan? I mean, it's something that you can just get involved with, and it could deliver, let's say, a new value proposition for your clientele. Like you're able to tell your customer that you're about to list that, hey, your home is going to be part of our caravan. And there's not that many agents that can say that. Like how many how many of you are involved in that? That's something that you could be thinking about too. But then virtual showings, that could also be an area that could be of value too. I'm not saying this is something you must do, but these are just ideas that I know other agents have been very successful using. And then your communication. Your virtual operation your communication is part of this. So how do you communicate to your database? That could be something that you have as a strategy for digging into with KV Core. But what do you do that's going to change what you do today in 2023? So I know all of you can do what you did last year again in 2023. But I can tell you the market is different in 2023, that if you did X number of transactions last year and you do the same things next year, you're going to have X minus next year. So it's really important for us to think, what are we going to do a little bit differently to get a few more leads next year? And then the last part is a little bit more selfish, a little bit more about you and your team. But these are areas that are important for this asset of you and your team. Your knowledge and expertise, your reputation, your health and wellness. So your knowledge is going to be tied to, what spaces are you learning to think differently and learning more? Hopefully you took a couple of things away from this discussion so far that has already made you think differently. But what other spaces are you going to get yourself into? If you've never tried caravan before, when are you going to go to the next caravan just to see if it makes you, if it gives your business an edge? When are you going to go to the next training session for KV Core that maybe Melody and Jennifer and Fabian are running? What REMAX University area are you going to dive into that you have access to that you're going to look into to see if it helps your business? This is all the kind of stuff that helps you with knowledge and expertise. I'm a big reader myself too. Is what business book have you heard that you want to spend some of your free time reading? Reputation is, like I said already, about testimonials. I'd wonder how many of you have a video testimonial of your top 5 customers in the last year and what you did for them. Could you, if I was a client that you are going to list my home, if I asked you, can you give me a reference of 2 or 3 of your customers so I can contact them? You're not going to want me to contact your customers and bother them. But what you could say to me is, oh, I can do even better, Tyrone. Let me share a couple of testimonials that I have while we're sitting here, and you'll just play them for me. And it might be talking about something specific that you did for 2 or 3 of your customers. That to me is reputation. And then health and wellness, we've already talked about. Interpersonal skills. This is really about your techniques around selling. So how good are you as a closer? How good are you at negotiating? And what are you going to do about that? So interpersonal skills, you can develop interpersonal skills. There's Toastmasters you could join locally to be a better speaker. You could take a negotiating course on how to be a better negotiator. And all of these are people that are good at this. It's not necessarily that they were born with this, is that they've done the work to become good. Speaking is a great example where Toastmasters actually is a great environment. And I guarantee there's 2 or 3 Toastmasters in every community, where there's individuals that get together once a week, and it's a very interesting group that I've done in the past myself. And it really does hone your ability to speak and be able to sell. And then time management. What is your structure around time management? So before I get to this next slide, what I want you to do is flip the page, and where you wrote down your 5 or 6 strategies. Right now, I just want you to write down one strategy that you're going to do in the next, let's call it the next 90 days. The most important thing for your business in the next 90 days for you to fix. And it could be something on your strengths and weaknesses. I want you to write that down in strategy number 1. And then I want you to flip the page, and you're going to see a page that has strategy number 1. You just recreate that same thing you wrote on the previous page up at the top. And this is key, guys. I want you to all do this. Write that strategy number 1 at the top. Now, what I want you to write down into tactic number 1 is, what can you do this afternoon that could move that strategy forward? So let me give you an example. Let's pretend that one of you wrote down that I really need to get my database onto KV Core. So I'll tell you what you could do this afternoon that could get you started on that process. Or let's just say that you're telling me that I am really going to engage in KV Core, and I'm really going to use this as a mechanism for driving my business next year. So I could tell you that the first item you could write down that you could do this afternoon is, geez, I better go through my Outlook. I better go through my current, maybe I use Top Producer, or I use some other CRM that I pay for today. I'm going to go through that database this afternoon and start cleaning it up. Or I'm just going to make a list of where all my database items are, and in the next week, I'm going to start cleaning it up. But I want you to write down something in the tactic for whatever your strategy is that you're going to do this afternoon or do before the end of the day on Friday. So I'll give you a moment just to write down that one tactic. And then you can see where I'm going here. Then I'd like you to fill the rest of those tactics up with a step-by-step of what you need to do next. So I'll stay with my same example. I'm going to organize my tactics. I'm going to get them all organized. I'm going to delete all the ones that I have no idea who the heck they are, or I've never contacted them. But if I do know, I'm going to do that. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to add to that database. No, sorry, I'm not going to add to the database. I'm then going to get that database into a format that I can transfer over to KV Core. That's what I would do next. So I would either start accumulating that in my Outlook, or I'm putting it into an Excel document, or I'm doing something that creates that list of 1,000 contacts I've got, but puts it all in a document that I could transfer over to KV Core later on. So I'm getting it all organized. Then my third step is going to be to actually find out and get some training on KV Core, how I bring my database into KV Core. And I'm going to do that by the end of November. And then in December, I'm going to do the training on KV Core about how I can start reaching out and touching my database and sending information to them, or that might be my next step. And then I might do that by the middle of December. And then by the end of December, I want to identify who all my advocates are. And I want to start to identify what are my action plans I'm going to have in my CRM that is going to connect me with my advocates. And I'm going to have that done by the end of December. So I want you to, that's how you build the plan, is we're going to transfer our strategies that we've identified from this exercise today. And we're going to identify those 5 or 6 strategies we know we want to do in the first 6 months of next year, by the first 6 months of next year. And then I'm going to take each strategy and start breaking it down. So already, just from today, you have identified one strategy, you've identified a number of weaknesses, and you've also identified what steps you can take this afternoon and tomorrow to start moving that strategy forward. Guys, it doesn't matter whether you're a multinational company or whether you're an independently run one-person operation. This is how you get into action. This is how you build a plan. This is how you start to, not remain at a standstill and get past that. It's like inertia that we've got. It's like we're so set in how we've always done our business that taking the time and building a plan like we're doing right now, it breaks the inertia because it starts to excite you about things you didn't do in the past that you could be doing in 2023. And hopefully in going through sort of all the assets, this starts to get you thinking about areas of your business that you can improve. Now, a lot of you might be, because I did this presentation a week ago with a number of agents, and at that time, the market had just started slowing down in the US. And people were feeling anxiety because there wasn't a lot of inventory and they didn't have a lot in their pipeline. And what I said to all of them is, if you're someone that's just sitting back and following the market, then you should be concerned. But if you are sitting there and leaning forward and thinking, okay, I haven't done half of the things Tyrone's talking about, all I got to do is just do a few of these things and I'm going to double my business next year. Now, you might not double it, but you will definitely improve what you did last year if you just implement a few of these strategies that you're thinking of and the ones that we were talking about out loud. And if we really lean into that, then we're going to have a fantastic year in 2023. Because it's not about what the market does, it's about how much market share you get. So I want you to say that to yourself. It's not about what the market does, it's about how much market share you get. And if you keep leaning in on that, I'll tell you, no matter what happens next year, we know we've all, like those of you that are old like me, I'm 56. I've seen a number of recessions myself. I bought my house, my first home in 1992. And I know many of you on the screen weren't around then in real estate, but in 1992 wasn't the greatest time to be in the market. 92, 93, 94. I mean, interest rates and it was interesting. Now, 2008 was something a little more recent for some of you, 2008, 2009. We know that doesn't matter what happens next year, we're coming out of this. The question is, as a CEO, what is your business going to look like when we come out of this? So I hope what I've done today is inspire you to think about the assets of your business and think about areas that if you really lean forward, one is that you'll improve on what you did in 2022 and 2023. And second, when the market really starts to take off again, which we know will happen very soon or might continue to happen in Toronto, we have the luxury here of being a very actively growing GTA because of our attraction to the world for immigration. And we know that the doors of immigration are going to continually be open here in the GTA. And that in itself brings money and it brings people that need homes. So it's almost like this artificial worldwide supply that feeds our market that, even if the global economy is changing, ours, for whatever reason, gets positively influenced by that. So hopefully that inspires you to lean in on this. But the next item I just want to talk about is this quote from Thomas Edison, is that I know as a business coach that opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. And a lot of you might smile when you read this, but it's so true, isn't it? Is that what can I do to change my work ethic? What can I do? Like many of you will have done the work today. You've invested an hour and a bit with me, but then this document's going to go land on a shelf somewhere and it's going to collect dust and it's not going to be completed. I want to challenge all of you that this is where the hard work starts, is building this plan in more detail for yourself. I'm giving you ideas today. I'm not telling you what to write, but I am telling you, you need to write something. And you need to have a plan going into next year, and you don't even need to share it with anybody. This is for yourself. By writing it down, I guarantee is the first step to being committed to it. Then I would challenge you to share this with your broker. I would challenge it to anybody that's mentoring you. I challenge you to share it with them. And that is going to create more accountability. Another way of creating accountability is get into groups of 2, 3, 4, get into mastermind groups, share your business plan with some of your colleagues. That's another way of keeping each other accountable. Have an accountability partner, or share it with your partner, your spouse, etc. What your plan is, because they're obviously one that's going to help light the fire under you as well. And the last quote I'm going to leave you with is, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And I think I love this Zig Ziglar quote. By you coming here today, you've already started. If you attended today and have just been listening and watching the soccer game in the background and haven't written anything, you haven't started yet, which means that you're going to have to watch this recording again and get your business plan going, which is fine. All I'm saying is, let's get started, everyone. Jennifer, Melody, I'm going to end it there. And
I think that's great. Thank you. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Melody, do you have any comments?
I just took some notes on my own to see how, what we can implement to help the agents implement their goals and strategies. So there were a couple of things I'm working on, you know, mainly with KV Core. So as Tyrone said, that's really a great opportunity for us right now. We're one of the first brokerages in North America to get the program. So we really jumped on that. And we have Amanda, she's online right now too, who's doing training by Zoom and in person and doing videos. So we're posting those videos on the family Facebook group. And she's learning more and more. And some agents who are, you know, going ahead of her and diving deeper into the KV Core are bringing it back to her and teaching her so she can share with you. So it's kind of neat. And I'm trying to work on things that I can bring to you so that you can use KV Core in a useful way. So I'm looking at providing you with a monthly newsletter that you can load up into your KV Core and then push out to your CRM. And we're training the staff on how to help you or do for you upload your contacts to KV Core. So there's all sorts of things we're working on there. Other than that, yeah, I have a couple other ideas that I don't want to share with you yet because I don't know how I'm going to implement them. They will be something I have to discuss with Jennifer and maybe Tyrone going forward.
That's awesome, Melody. You know, everyone just listening to Melody and the way she used the time today. Again, I want to encourage you all, even if you picked one strategy and you built out what you're going to do next, you're already leaning forward on this plan and you're thinking about what you could possibly do. I know the best way of getting rid of anxiety, to your point, Melody, is to figure out what your plan is on paper. And it will get rid of a lot of anxiety about what your next step is.
Right. What was the what was the other word or title that someone gave you for new agent? I didn't write that down.
I think it was new business owner.
I
Oh,
think so,
yeah,
yeah.
good one. We also have quite a few new business owners online right now. We've been hiring lots of newly licensed salespeople. So Fabian's been making the rounds and providing assignments and that. So I think this business planning session was really useful. I know that it's difficult to figure out, what your goals will be if you don't have any previous production history. But I think aside from that, building on the database is really important, and setting those strategies and how you're going to set up your systems to go forward into the new year.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I typed in there, Melody, our new chief executive officers.
Yeah.
And in
thanks.
fact, I think that's not just our newer agents in the industry, but I could also say to some of you that are experienced agents, maybe today is the first time you actually looked at yourself as a CEO, because you really are a chief executive officer of your business, which means you're responsible for all of this that we're talking about. I also, Melody, just to repeat, I hope all of you, I've been talking with Fabian about the caravan solution. And I can tell you as agents, if you haven't connected with that, I think one of the strategies or tactics is to connect with that and see how you can leverage it.
Yeah, we're actively trying to grow that group. I think it's a very, very cool and unique system that we have in place that's uniquely Rouge. There have been other caravans that, in the past had existed and they fell away with COVID. And our company really just spans such a large geographic area that the way we're doing it now with Zoom is amazing. And I think that sellers are really looking for you to be able to express your value and show your value, and marketing your listing and marketing yourself to agents, and using the caravan for that means is an amazing opportunity. I think it's also neat. You did mention, Toastmasters and all of this and honing your skills. And I think for those, many people are nervous to join the caravan. So Fabian's been reaching out to any of you who have had listings, on the market right now. They might be sitting or whatever. You might be scared to join or speak up in front, but that's a great opportunity to role play or, hone your communication and presentation skills by joining the caravan and just practicing in front of your peers. It gives you it helps to improve your public speaking and your presentation skills. And you'll just be more confident when you go on your listing and buyer presentations.
Sounds good. I'm having a hard time talking. So I'm going to try not to talk. Okay, if you guys have any questions or you needed contact info for Tyrone, I can provide that at any time. Yeah, if there's no other questions, we'll let Tyrone go. And I'm sure I'll hear from some of you guys that want to go through your package, which is absolutely fine. We can start doing that in the beginning of December.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And there will be a recording, so I'll send the recording, Jennifer, to you and Melody. And
Perfect.
if anybody needs to re-listen to some of this, they can do that and continue to work on their business plan.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Tyrone.
Have fun with your bucket list with your partners. That'll be a fun exercise.
Yes. Bye.
Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.